All right, well, let's get to it. What's up, everybody? My name's Kyle and welcome to the LRT Outpost. Now today we're finally going to get our RZR build back on its wheels, break in our ceramic brakes that we installed, and also we got to be a little easy on it and break in our new CVT belt. But we're going to try to go ahead and widen out our stance. I got some wheel spacers and we're going to adjust our ride height a little bit, get it nice and dialed in, and we'll give it a shakedown run. So let's get into it. Now we're going to slap on these 1-inch wheel spacers, and I've actually already done a video talking about wheel spacers. I know some people don't like them. They probably had a failure. I've heard of somebody's had a failure, a wheel comes flying off, etc. I've had really good luck with them. I have run 1.5-inch wheel spacers on my Ranger. They've been up there forever. I have almost 100,000 miles on it, which I will be doing a 100,000 mile review on that. I have a 5th gen 2019 4-door Ranger. It's been an awesome truck. So if you want to make sure you catch that, make sure you hit that subscribe. I appreciate you. But back to the wheel spacers. I've had really good luck. It's nice, little kind of widen your stance out, adds a little side-to-side stability. Plus, because sometimes you just can't find the right wheel spacing for the look or the clearance you need. And in the right applications, I think they're okay. I don't think there's any problem with them. All you're doing is just adding another mating surface. I want to give you guys another little walkthrough on just kind of how I recommend installing these things. This is pretty standard for wheel spacers, but here we go. You want to make sure you have a nice clean mounting surface. I'll remove my wheel. So you want as flat as a mounting surface as possible. So you're going to have like rust and stuff like that in the way. Dirt, whatever. So we're going to take, basically, I just take a little wire wheel on a drill and you can clean up all around all the lugs. So you got a nice, clean mounting surface now. It doesn't have to be perfect, I don't think, but just make sure you got a nice flat surface, just any kind of debris or rust. A blue thread locker. Only the lugs that the spacer is going to mount to. Do not do your wheel lugs. Mount our spacer up there nice and evenly using the provided lugs for the spacer. Okay, now some wheel spacer manufacturers will give you a torque spec. Some will tell you to use the factory vehicle torque spec for the lugs. This is going to be one of those do as I say, not as I do type of situations. I think the factory torque spec on the RZRs are 90 foot-pounds or something like that. I just take Big Daddy Ugga Dugga and I just let her rip. Do what you want. Okay, now that they're all torqued to spec, throw our wheel back on. All right, so once the wheel spacers are installed, go for a little ride, or just after your next ride, typically 50 or so miles is pretty good. Go back and check your torque spec on the actual wheel spacers. Like pull your wheel off, check the wheel spacers, make sure everything's still nice and tight. And then just periodically, I just check it. Like for example, my Ranger, I drive every day. I check it about every time I get the oil changed and the tires rotated. I just go back, check all my wheel lugs on the actual spacer itself, make sure all of them look tight, and I just kind of give it a little inspection, make sure nothing looks cracked or weird or anything out of the ordinary. And I've never really had a problem. Same thing with the RZR. I just kind of adopted the same practice, and again, never really had any problem on any of my ATVs. I've actually run them on my little Honda Recon as well. I'll post a little tag to that video, but just another mounting surface. Just be aware of it, check it. And the other thing I will add that I did not mention in my previous video about wheel spacers, you kind of get what you pay for. Don't cheap out on some Chinese like garbage that you found on Amazon for 50 bucks for a set of 4. Probably not your best bet. Make sure you get good quality spacers. Other than that, not an issue. All right, so now I want to adjust my ride height a little bit. I do have a 3-inch bracket lift, but I have made adjustments over the years on the collars on the shocks. You can't adjust your ride height from the factory. I think it's mainly meant if you're carrying a load, but a lot of people jack them up as like a lift kit, and technically it is kind of adjustable that way. However, I want to lower mine back down just so I have a little bit more stability. So from the factory measurements, actually wrote them down, and you measure from the top here, not on the tube, right at the bottom of that, to the top of the first lock ring, and we are at 9.7. So the factory is 7.14. We're about 2 inches over right now. And in the front, the factory is a 15.49, so 15.5 centimeters, and I'm currently at a 17.3. So I'm running about 2 inches over stock. I want to drop that down to about 1 inch over stock. With the 3-inch lift is about 4 inches. And I'm also doing that for spring fatigue as well. These factory springs have had it. As I mentioned in a previous video, one of my next steps is to get these shocks over to shock therapy and new springs, go ahead and revalve them and get them tuned up for our build. But for now, we're working with what we got. So to make the adjustments, you're supposed to use one of these little spanner wrenches. This is actually from a Blair Sportsman. Doesn't exactly fit, but gets the job done. But these locking collars, basically I take just like a little flat chisel, a little hammer, and just loosen up the collar. Just like that. And you want to do this with the weight off, so the RZR's still jacked up right now. So if the factory is 7.14, we're going to kind of want to sit around 8. So I'll take the locking collar, I'll move it where the 8 is at, right there. And I'm going to use that as my marker, and then we'll take our spanner wrench and loosen this up until it meets. And it just hooks on these little notches. I have limit straps, so there is still tension on this thing. If you don't have limit straps, this part's probably a little easier. Once you get it to where you want it, we're just going to tighten the top ring. To lock it in, let's double check our measurement, and we are right at it, 7.98. So we're right in that neighborhood. Now we're just going to repeat that for all 4 corners. And of course, the front will have a different adjustment. And once we get that done, we'll get this thing back on the ground. Let's give it a little test ride. All right, so these ceramic brakes from Trailed Brakes, they recommend like an embedding process. So final step to installing your Trailed brakes is to bed the pads. Bedding procedure will heat your brakes to transfer an even layer of pad material onto the rotors, which helps brake performance, feel, and prevents brake noise. Use firm pressure to slow down from 35 to 5 miles per hour. Repeat 5 times. Use firm brake pressure to slow down from 25 to 5 miles per hour 5 times. Drive for 5 to 10 minutes using the brakes minimally to allow the brakes to cool. Try to avoid coming to a complete stop during the bedding procedure. Once the brakes have cooled, you can use them normally. All right, well, let's get to it.
Want to be a little easy on our belt as well. Proper belt break-in really is just kind of take it easy for a little while. Try not to maintain a constant speed for long periods of time. I usually do a little bit of high, a little bit of low gear, get the belt nice and warm, and then I'll let it sit and cool for a minute. And I'll do that about 5-6 times or so. And really for like the first like 50 or so miles, some people recommend 100. I think that might be a little overkill personally, but I just kind of take it a little easy. I don't like hammer down on it. I don't try to like take hard drifts and lay a lot of power real fast and get that belt to potentially slip or anything. Basically what's happening is you want the sheaves to kind of form and groove that belt, and you'll get nice and seated and it grips really good. All right, everything feels pretty good. We got a couple of heat cycles on that belt. We got the brakes broke in, and actually with the adjustment I did on the suspension, I like the way it sits right now. So from the factory, they're 60 inches wide. I have aftermarket wheels, so that changes the width some with the spacing. When I had the 32s, a little overkill for this unit, but they were 32 by 10s. They really measured closer to like 11s. But I was sitting at 64.25 inches, or 64.25 inches overall width. I want to be around that 65-inch-ish width, and that's exactly where I'm at with these tires and the 1-inch wheel spacers. And of course, when you adjust the ride height, you do get a little bit of change in your width as the suspension flexes in and out as you raise the unit up and down. I kind of like where it's at right now. So total about 4 inches of lift. Sits pretty good. We're going to kind of let it ride like this, maybe do some fine tuning later. But right now there's actually an off-roading event going on local to me. That's the Lenore County Off-Roading and Overland Affair, or Off-Road and Overlanding Affair. It's the Off-Road Affair and Overlanding 2025 event at the Lenore County Fairgrounds in Kinston, North Carolina. If you're local to the area, I'll put a link to their website in the description. They have a Facebook page. Cool event that's put on by some local people here. Started out as like a Jeep event, and I've been kind of bugging them here and there and showing it with my RZR, and they've been nice enough to let me take it on their obstacle course. So that's where we're about to go. I think we're going to meet up with our buddy Taylor as well with his RZR 900 with the 7-inch lift that we put on it. If you haven't checked that video out, I'll put a little tag for it so you can go watch it if you would like. But that unit turned out real sweet.
Now that's going to do it for this video. I'm going to go ride. Now, of course, I'm going to take the GoPro with me so I can catch some cool footage. So if you want to check that out and see how the RZR performs, make sure you hit that subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, go ahead and hit that like as well. I appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.